So welcome to Talking Point with Stephen Taylor. It's good to have you along, and today joined by Mr. Ebrahim Rasool, Premier, Ambassador, good guy. I don't know, what other titles do you have? How are you doing? So welcome.
I'm well, thank you very much. This is an honor.
It's an honor to have you here. So talk us through your early days. Let's take you back to when you were growing up. Did you grow up in the Western Cape?
I'm born and bred Cape Town. I was born in District 6 at the Peninsula Maternity Hospital.
All right. Is that still there?
I think it's now an old age home.
All right.
I mean, from birth to old age.
So then we can go and send you there now. Sorry, man. I'm only joking.
No. I'm not quite there yet.
How ironic would that be?
Yeah.
I was born there, now I'm living there.
Yeah. No. And then we grew up in Rutgers Street in District 6 until 1972, and that's probably my first political memory.
Really?
Coming home and then finding all our furniture on the pavement because
Why?
my father had been received an eviction notice under the Group Areas Act. And that's when we moved to Primrose Park, which is a little lower middle class suburb right next to Mannenberg.
Oh, sure.
And that's where I then further grew up. And I remember a global political memory is the 1973 Yom Kippur War, the Arab-Israeli War.
That's before my time.
And basically the debates about Palestine and all of those kind of things were really enormous out at that school.
Which are still going on, right?
Which is still going on.
Yeah.
And then I go to Livingston High School in 1976. I'm Standard 6, which will now be Grade 8.
That's right.
And I get my first taste of tear gas and all of those kind of things because it's the 1976 uprisings.
At school?
At school.
Yo.
And then by 1980, I'm in matric at Livingston High School, and I'm the secretary of the SRC, and that's the epic 11-week school boycott against apartheid.
Oh, yes.
That I'm part of the committee of 81 leading those student struggles.
Sure.
And I graduate to University of Cape Town. I join ASASO. I join the Muslim Students Association, and that really is a quick summary.
Yeah. Was that where the flame was like kind of where it started?
It was nurtured through all of those kind of years, and by 1983 I'm on the executive of the Western Cape United Democratic Front, the UDF.
Oh, right.
And by 1991 I'm on the leadership of the African National Congress when it is unbanned.
Sure.
I think that a lot of it comes from how you are growing up as
Did
a
you meet
family.
Madiba?
I met Madiba the first time in 1987. He was a prisoner in Pollsmoor. You know, 1985 he had been moved from Robben Island
to Pollsmoor.
Yeah.
And then he went to Victor Verster.
And then last lap is to Victor Verster. And then, of course, I have 2 stints under the state of emergency in detention. So the first one is Victor Verster in 1985.
You were arrested?
Yes. Under the state of emergency. And then 1987. But between 86 and 87, I'm living an underground existence. They're looking for me. I'm secretary of the UDF. And I effectively live in underground. And they eventually catch me in May, June 1987.
Sure.
And that's the year that I meet Nelson Mandela. And he asked for me. I went to visit him in the hospital where he was kept. And that is like just one of those.
That's the first time that you met him.
That's the first time that I met him.
And what did you? How was that experience? What did you feel?
Look, I mean, the warden came to my cell and said, "Rasool, get dressed.
Yeah.
You're going to hospital." I said, "No, I'm feeling okay." He said, "No, just get dressed." And I follow him through the Pollsmoor prison, and he comes to the hospital and says, "Go inside that waiting room, and if anyone speaks to you, don't talk loudly." And I go in there, and the other door opens, and you must remember Nelson Mandela's image was banned. We had no updated image of him. All we remembered was that round face with the middle path in the boxing stance. And the face isn't as round anymore. It's angular. It's obviously older. The middle path is gone. But I know it's Nelson Mandela. And he speaks to me and he says, "You know, I've been reading about you. you're doing very interesting work.
Sure.
You're getting the Muslims into the struggle through this organization called the Call of Islam. This is really great stuff because, Muslims, from my experience, they like to be on their own.
Yeah.
You are saying to Muslims, be with Africans, be with your fellow. That's amazing work. And I'm shocked. How does this man know this kind of detail? He says, that's why I wanted to see you.
Sure.
And then we end up and he speaks about who's in detention. I say, I've got these little school children, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, and I'm having to watch. He says, maybe Ebrahim, after so many years in prison, I have some privileges. I have a projector, I see films. I will arrange with the wardens that over the weekend, my projector can come to you.
Yo, that's crazy.
And then you can watch the films.
Yo.
And from that moment, every Saturday, Nelson Mandela sends his projector up. He sends it with his own documentary. So out of respect, we watch his documentary and then we smuggle in the system to watch other movies.
Sure.
That we also want to, that we hire from the Woodstock.
Oh, right.
Daula.
Oh, yes.
And we really so that's the real important memory of Nelson Mandela.
That's amazing. Obviously, you worked more with him later on, right?
Yes, as soon as he came out of prison, he did an African tour to go and thank the countries of Africa, also North Africa.
Oh, you went with him?
For their support. And he just invited me one morning. He phones me at something to 6 in the morning. He says, I know as a good Muslim you should be up now. And can you come to my hotel room?
Yeah.
And I go and he says, I'm leaving in 3 weeks' time on this African tour. I want you to go with as an advisor.
Sure.
So for 2 weeks, we are traveling from South Africa to Zambia. There's where I meet Thabo Mbeki and others. From Zambia to Angola. And I go to the ANC camps and I watch Nelson Mandela engaging the soldiers of the ANC at the camp in Vianney, trying to explain to them why we must take a different path and why the military option is not the primary option. And from there we go to Nigeria, Algeria, Libya, and we arrive in Algeria just in the heat of the standoff between the FLN government and the FIS, the Islamists.
Oh, wow.
Between their marches we arrive, and we move from there to Libya, and I meet Gaddafi in his desert tent, and we have to book an extra plane to carry all the gifts that Gaddafi gave us, carpets and televisions and stuff like that. He puts it on his own plane and flies it back to South Africa.
That's crazy.
And we go from there and I meet Mubarak in Egypt. And we see Nelson Mandela insists he's going to meet the students, and we hear about this kind of unhappiness about.
So they knew, everyone knew who he was.
Every place we came was a public holiday.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Every time we landed, there was a public holiday.
Really?
The stadiums were filled. Nelson Mandela spoke to masses of people in the stadiums in Abuja, in Lagos, in that university in Cairo. Wherever we went, there was just mass. And this was frightening for the Mubaraks, frightening for the Babangidas, frightening even for the Algerians. I mean, the Algerians were so afraid that they did not provide Nelson Mandela with a translator. In a country that speaks French and Arabic, they only wanted Mandela to speak in English, and we fought behind the scenes for a translator. And they didn't provide it.
But did they understand what he was saying?
They only knew when he was saying slogans. He said, we didn't know that his great friend in Algeria, Ahmed Ben Bella, had moved from the FLN to the Islamists.
Oh no.
And he spoke about my friend Ahmed Ben Bella. The one half of the crowd erupts. And when I was here in 1961, I heard the slogan, Islam is our religion, Arabic is our language, Algeria is our country, and that unites the whole crowd. And so forth, because they understand that. So look, I mean, I must say, I've had really wonderful memories. And from that moment, right up till Washington, the great honor I had in Washington that on the spot outside the South African embassy, where the first anti-apartheid movement activists, Randall Robinson and so forth, were arrested. On that exact spot, we raised a 3-meter statue of Nelson Mandela taking his first step out of Victor Verster as a tribute to the role that the anti-apartheid movement in America particularly, but globally, had played in facilitating that and turning back even Ronald Reagan's veto of the Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act. So I've had a wonderful life.
So you became, were you MEC first or were you Premier?
No. I was MEC first because remember the Western Cape voted for the National Party to be its government. But under the terms of the negotiations, it was a government of unity.
So coalition government.
And so I became the MEC, or the Provincial Minister for Health and Welfare.
Okay.
I was only 31. And I was managing this kind of 60% of the provincial budget for health and welfare. So that was like really challenging times. But we had just overcome apartheid. We were feeling as if nothing could defeat us.
That was 94, 95?
That was 94.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So you were close. So Nelson Mandela was president then?
Nelson Mandela was president.
Okay.
And
who was the premier at that time?
The premier was the last apartheid police minister, Ernest Kriel.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you worked closely with him then?
Yeah, I found him a delightful guy. If you forget his history.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And then when did you become premier?
I became premier in 2004. So.
All right.
And again, I mean, everyone, Trevor Manuel, Cheryl Carolus, everyone went to national ANC.
Yeah.
And we decided we've got to correct this wrong that we felt at that moment.
So who was premier before you?
Injustice. Mokel.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That was DANP coalition.
DANP coalition.
You took
then
over.
We became, and then Martinus van Schalkwyk was premier.
Oh, that's right.
In that first, and then I became in 2004.
Yeah. Okay. How long were you premier?
For 4 years and a bit.
Okay. Did you enjoy it? Was it tough?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was really, it was tough.
Yeah.
If you consider the kind of...
So you choose your own cabinet?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you choose from within the legislature.
That's right.
And we chose a cabinet that also had members of the new National Party.
All right. Okay.
In it. And then some ANC people, and we really... We came in with a vision of making the Western Cape a home for all.
I think you did that.
And we managed fairly well, except that we didn't understand the power of the internal politics of the ANC.
Yeah.
Both in their preparation to get Jacob Zuma elected as president, and the ambitions here.
So Mbeki was president when you were premier?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And there was a lot of things happening at that time that, so there were challenges for you then when you were premier?
Yeah, no, I think that there were quite a few challenges. I think that the details of it are not as interesting any longer. They become vague with time. But we committed suicide.
Is there anything that you would have done differently as premier?
On the governance program, I have absolutely no doubt that we were on the right path.
Yeah.
I think it was in that time, if I can just be ironic for a while, that the Berg River Dam was opened because we saw that we were a water scarce province.
Did you know back then when you were premier?
Yeah, we knew that Berg River would ease our problem, but not solve it. We knew that we needed to raise the Klein Willem Dam's wall to catch more water and to keep it, a few other ones. We knew that the aquifers had to be on. That was also the time when we put a moratorium on the creation of new golf courses, because every Tom, Dick and Harry wanted to get a Jack Nicklaus and Ernie Els to come and design a golf course. And what people didn't understand was that each golf course uses 2 million liters of water a day to just keep the greens green.
And how many golf courses do we have?
And how many golf courses do we have?
That's a lot.
If you look at some of our generation, we made it conditional. If you want to open a golf course, you've got to have a desalination plant or another water source. That moratorium was, of course, lifted after the ANC left the government.
But we don't hear about that.
But
so you knew about the water shortage back in 2004?
And that's exactly why we had a provincial spatial development plan in place that could begin to plan for it. And of course, every new government wants to erase the fingerprints of its predecessor. And that is why I think we are now having to mitigate a drought when I think we should have had a lot of these things in place.
Okay, so Ebrahim Rasool, former Premier of the Western Cape. Tell us the facts. Who's to blame for the water shortages?
Look, I think that there is climate change.
Yeah.
And part of the climate change mitigation strategy came not because we called it climate change, but we spoke about El Nino, the El Nino effect.
That's right. Yeah.
And we saw the desertification on the western side of the Western Cape and the floods on the eastern side of the Western Cape.
Back then.
Yeah. And that is why we got anxious about retaining water. I think that we've had 10 years in South Africa where I think the national government was distracted. They took the eye off the ball.
Yes.
I think the provincial government was distracted because it wanted to erase everything that came from, that had anything to do with Ebrahim Rasool.
Yeah.
And I think that the city government, it is now revealed, was a hotbed of civil war. People were fighting for their own political lives rather than for the lives of the people. And so I think that there is shared blame of not managing what is a natural global phenomenon that I think has been thrust on us, namely climate change.
Yeah. And if I had to ask you a question, the city is blaming nationals blaming the city. What would you say?
Look, I think it's unhelpful at this point when you're facing this enormous crisis. I think we need the adults in the room.
Yeah, we do.
And the adults need to say, how are we going to manage it?
Yeah.
Is it possible that 4 million people should queue every day at 200 places to collect water? What's the chaos that will ensue out of that?
It will. How many robberies, hijackings are going to take place for people just wanting water?
Yeah. The point of the matter is that those in whose sphere of jurisdiction is who allowed rubble to clog canals that feed the dam must go and just remove it. Those who have not sunk in the aquifers need to go and remove it, and so that we can get that coming. It still won't bring all that we need. The desalination plants need to be and citizens.
Were you doing desalination back then?
No.
Okay.
The desalination back then was largely the result of golf estates beginning to water their own gardens. But citizens also need to alter their lifestyles.
Yeah.
And so there's a job for each one of us, and each one of us must be adult in our own sphere of jurisdiction.
But are we to blame? Because if you're paying for a service to the city of Cape Town, they're not supplying that service. We have to cut back, obviously, but we're not to blame ultimately because it's not we can't manage it. There was mismanagement, I believe.
I think that if we had the alarm bells ringing from the first reports that said we are going to run out of water, and the first report said 2012.
Yes.
If those who were in charge of our province and our city had begun to raise those kind of things and alter our lifestyles, we could be at 400, 300 million liters of water usage a day, rather than try to get people to break from 100 kilometers per hour to 10 within a few meters.
Do you think we'll run out of water?
I think that we are going to be severely inconvenienced away from our previous lifestyle, and then we are going to have to learn to live with the water so be optimistic and say we have available currently from the dams, say about 200 million liters of water a day.
Yeah.
Then we add 150 million litres that can come from the aquifers. Then the current desalination projects that's online that should begin to yield water later in this year should yield another 106 million litres of water. So we're now getting close. Then we must learn to live with 500 million litres of water. So all the lessons we've learned about showering, about washing, about dishwashing, gardening.
So that's going to be forever.
I think we've just got to understand that this is a way of life nowadays, and that that the new emerging middle class cannot afford to imitate what the white middle classes have lived off in luxury for the last few hundred years.
But now, say now we do get to day zero, how would that affect the province? And how would that affect business and people wanting to come here, tourism, everything?
I think
we'd crumble.
The effects are enormous. I'm getting frantic calls out of the United States.
Really?
About whether certain companies who have decided to invest here, because suddenly Cape Town used to be the place that every global manager would have loved to come to, put their children, love the lifestyle and so forth. Suddenly people say, I can't do 2-minute showers.
No.
I can't be curtailing our lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of constraints we're going to have to manage. And what's worse, when they read about the squabbling,
which is
because people can handle sacrifices when A, they think we're all in this together, B, they are adults governing. But the moment they feel that there are no adults, that there's just children at the wheel.
It does look like that though.
Absolutely. When they see children at the wheel, there's no calming voice. Everyone is blaming, no one is taking responsibility.
And everything is vague.
Everything is vague. We're trying to get rid of people in the midst of a crisis and so forth. Then people say, no, we can manage an objective crisis, but we can't manage a subjective crisis.
That's right. Can you become Premier again?
Legally, technically, yes.
Would you?
Look, it's not something that I have set as a desire. I've been back for a year. I've kept fairly calm.
But you did campaign
under the radar. The only objective I've set myself was to campaign for Cyril Ramaphosa to become president of the ANC. We have another job to do, and that is Cyril Ramaphosa as president of the country. Only then can the Western Cape ANC begin to dream of being in government again. If you don't do those preconditions, if you can't erase the nightmare of the dark decade of Jacob Zuma, you cannot begin to dream of a future in which we can replicate the golden age of the ANC when we governed here.
But it is crazy that you were the last elected ANC Premier in the Western Cape. Because Lynn Bryan took over, she wasn't elected. She was interim Premier. And then the DA won, and then that was like, what, 12, 13 years ago?
About probably 2009 is when the DA won. So it's just under
so it's
9 years ago. Just under
I thought it was longer. So that's quite hectic.
No, it's hectic, but I think that, again...
Because the numbers have just gone...
But and the key question we must ask, was it murder or was it suicide?
It was a bit of both.
I don't think that Helen Zille was capable of murdering us.
No.
It was suicide.
But look, to be honest and fair, the DA did start out good. They did some good things, but now I think in a way they've lost the plot.
Look, I think that it depends. What's your priority? If your priority is crime, you must ask, why did the DA disband 20,000 anti-crime volunteers under the banner of Bambanani?
I remember that. Under Leonard Ramatlakane.
If that's your, what's his name? If your priority was the kind of farm workers, why did you allow this casualization of farm laborers across the Western Cape?
And why did you close the zoo?
Why did you close that?
I used to love going to the zoo. Now I can't even go to the zoo.
So the point of the matter is, it depends entirely
on what.
If you are in the city of Cape Town and tourism is your thing, you can say, yes, we've got a clean city. But you can't say the same in the townships. And so, even in a sense, I mean, when I look back, we've always been number one in educational statistics. we're being overtaken. And so the point of the matter is, I think that there is certainly a debate that should be had about that matter.
Let's be honest, the informal settlements have had day zero every day.
No,
they have to go get water every day. I mean, you know.
And what can the adult, the supposed adult in the room say?
Yeah.
It's you must be happy that colonialism hasn't brought its back water to you.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
That's an absolute. You know, the worst thing that a leader does in a time of crisis is to score points.
That's it. Listen, we have to get you back, so it was great having you on the show. Thank you for your time, and listen, wish you all the best, and maybe Premier again. We never know, eh?
We'll see.
Mr. Rasool, thank you very much, man.
No, all the best. Thank you very much.
Another episode of Talking Point with Stephen Taylor. Of course, connect with me at Stephen Taylor SA on Facebook and Twitter. Catch you again next time, same place. Thank you, Bjorn. God bless.